My name is Brad Bunt, and I'm the chairman of the U.S.-Ukraine Foundation. And we so much appreciate everyone who has come out tonight. Thank you very much. We wish to thank all our sponsors and partners, but special gratitude must be extended to Howard G. Buffett Foundation and especially the Embassy of Sweden, who provided this for us tonight. Welcome to this benefit gala. Yes, thank you. We have many thanks for Sweden tonight. Welcome to this benefit gala in support one of the Foundation's newest and most consequential initiatives. Almost a year ago, we adopted the Forget-Me-Not flower as a reminder that we must never forget to help the most vulnerable victims of Putin's war. The Ukrainian children stolen by Russia and all the victims of Putin's brutal war. We created a new Friends of Ukraine Network Task Force for International Human Rights, co-chaired by Carl Gershman. Carl, are you here? Yeah. And former Minister of Justice of Canada, Irvin Cotter, to pursue justice for the victims of crimes related to sexual violence, POWs, and all involved or affected by this armed conflict, including identifying and promoting the best practices of treating trauma, especially for children. So, before we start, I'd like for us all to rise for a moment of silence for those lives that were taken by the war. And we have an empty table here in recognition of those. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we're here tonight. Tonight we're going to shift our attention to our honoree, Howard G. Buffett. Howard G. Buffett is a farmer, he's a photographer, he's a conservationist, a businessman, and I didn't know this until today, but a former sheriff, and I want to still hear the rest of the stories on that.
I still have handcuffs, so.
Okay. And chairman and CEO of the Howard J. Buffett Foundation, which invests in global food security, conflict mitigation, and combating human trafficking. He serves on the board of Berkshire Hathaway and has authored 15 books, including 2 New York Times bestsellers. He is the executive producer of 4 award-winning documentaries, including the 2024 Oscar-nominated Porcelain War, centered on the Ukrainian people's courage during the Russian invasion. But it is his commitment to Ukraine that really sets him apart and why he's here today. Howard first visited this country in 1991, when it was still part of the Soviet Union. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022, he didn't wait. He crossed the border 6 weeks later, camera in hand, of which we had 3 photos today that I hope everyone bid on, and has returned more than 20 times, including over 63 days along the active front lines, although I think you told me it's 100 now.
And it's 25. You're a little
25.
Okay.
Old information here. His foundation has committed nearly $1 billion to Ukraine, more than humanitarian assistance. Now listen to this. This is what's important. More humanitarian assistance than all but 7 nations on earth. Think of that. That support has funded over 132 million frontline communities, the largest single philanthropic demining investment in the country's history, agriculture equipment for Ukrainian farmers, rehabilitation for wounded soldiers, and restoration of tens of thousands of homes and buildings so that displaced Ukrainians could return. And this is very important, he has done all of this as a private citizen, beholden to no government, no agency, no bureaucracy, no red tape, only his own conscience. He has called this cause the clearest distinction between right and wrong that he has ever encountered in his life. And then I added a few more notes on this. Like he said, he had visited Ukraine. I started thinking about all the things Howard Buffett has done. And how can I match up to Howard Buffett? Well, one, I can't. But I have traveled to Ukraine 28 times, so you have a little catching up to do.
I'm not that far behind. I'll catch you.
Okay. He spent 2 to 3, I think 3 birthdays in Ukraine. I've only spent 1, but I have spent 12 New Year Eves in Ukraine. So you have to match me on that.
You're killing me.
Howard Buffett is not funding projects that will end. He is funding a structural pillar of Ukraine's long-term recovery and future success. Just as the U.S.-Ukraine Foundation started over 30 years ago, planting seeds to grow a free, democratic, and independent Ukraine. And while others measure impact in seasons, Howard Buffett is planting seeds that will outlast generations, cultivating not just crops, but the enduring roots of a free, democratic, and independent Ukraine. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Howard Buffett.
A person with a great heart, a true friend of Ukraine and my dear friend Howard. Allow me to express my deep gratitude to you. In our most difficult hours, you were one of the first to stand with our people, offering your strong support and restoring faith in the future. On behalf of myself and the National Police, I thank you for this great support that we feel every day. In Ukraine we say, in dark times, bright people are clearly seen. Thank you for the light of your soul, which has given hope to millions of Ukrainians. Back in 2022, in destroyed Borodyanka, you asked me, what can I do for you?
If you could do it now, what would you want to do? And he told me that rebuilding the police station here.
And you built a new police station to replace the one destroyed by the enemy. You did more than restore a building. You revived in people the sense of safety, the will to live, and the confidence in tomorrow. You always support and inspire. Thanks to you, our K9 officers train is the most modern center. The White Angels save lives in the hottest spots using your vehicles. You are part of our history and our society, and you care for everyone. You are a star that light the way. Thank you, my dear friend. May you be safe and well.
Wow. That's General Nibitov. He's my get-out-of-jail-free card.
Mr. Buffett, I'm going to go ahead and introduce your interviewer. Raj Kumar is one of the most important voices in global development journalism and someone with a longer history with Ukraine than most people might know. Today, he is president and editor-in-chief of DevX, the independent news organization he co-founded at Harvard, now home to over 1 million members and described by the Washington Post as, quote, the Bloomberg of foreign aid. He is also the author of The Business of Changing the World, a defining work on the future of global aid, named the World Economic Forum's Book of the Month. I should mention he is also a friend of Mr. Buffett. So take it away, gentlemen.
Is that Kupiansk? Where were you?
Oh, that's Bakhmut with the airplane behind us. That was actually that was about a month before it fell.
Well, I hadn't seen that video before. I was just thinking back to the...
I haven't either, so...
You haven't seen it?
It was made especially for this evening.
Wow. It's. I mean, it gives you all, I hope, a sense of Howard Buffett not being your typical philanthropist. That's the name on the program. You are not your average philanthropist. I was thinking back, and I invite all of you to remember what you were doing during your Christmas and New Year's holidays. I think you were evacuating civilians from the front line. You were visiting an underground hospital. Why do you do that? I mean, why don't you just sit back and write the checks from where you live?
So I can get awards. No. I said that because I do want to say thank you very much for the award, and I want to say that I'm not very good at accepting awards, but when it comes to Ukraine, if it gives me an opportunity to talk about Ukraine, I'll probably show up. So thank you very much for the award tonight. I don't know that I can actually give you an honest answer about why I do it, other than I just love it. I mean, I feel like you have to show up. One of the things that anybody who shows up in Ukraine can give Ukrainians is hope, support, show them that we aren't forgetting about them, show them that we believe in them. And so showing up to me has always been the most important part of our philanthropy. I remember we were a few kilometers from Luhansk with a couple of mobile howitzer divisions, and we pulled up, and I was in an armored vehicle, and I got out, and I remember Ola saying, "Mr. Buffett, aren't you scared to be here?" And I said, "Well, you're here." I mean, like, so if you're here, I'm here. And you have to give that to people. And it's a simple thing to give them. It doesn't cost you anything, but you have to be there. And so one of the things that Ukraine has taught me, I've always said, and will tell you, I've always said you have to show up. But one of the things that Ukraine has taught me is how much more important that is than I ever realized.
What has it meant for what you actually give to? You know, how your philanthropy in Ukraine is different from, let's say, some of the governments that we heard about that are giving at similar levels. What are you funding that other people aren't funding because you're there?
Well, Ukraine is completely different for our foundation from the standpoint that we have typically avoided emergency relief type aid, assistance, whatever. We have gone in with the idea that our money should be, a bit of the risk capital philanthropy. But what does that mean? It means that we'll take risks for specific things to try to show others that it can work, or if it doesn't work, then let's not waste more money on it. Let's not waste more time on it. So we have done that. And I mean, Superhumans is a great example of doing that in Ukraine. But we've also, built bridges and built bomb shelters and done a lot of things that have been reactive because we've been asked. So, I mean, when Factor House was shelled a year and a half ago or whatever it was in Kharkiv, a company that provided about 50% of the children's books in the country, about 50% of the school books in the country. And I woke up and I had multiple messages, so I knew something had happened. And basically, within less than 2 hours, we had committed to Factor House that whatever the cost was, because we would know what the cost would be when the time came, so we didn't care what I mean, you could pick any number. If we're going to rebuild it, we're going to rebuild it. So within less than 2 hours, we had committed to rebuild it, and I think it was less than 6 months, it was up and running again. And, those things we can do. But we also, one of the interesting things, Sergey, who was the CEO of Factor House, he was approached by other people by giving money, and we just said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. We don't want more complications. We don't need the money. We don't need the problems. We don't want other people telling anybody how to do it. We're just going to go do it. And he actually turned down several $1 million at least once. And that, to me, was pretty amazing, because he just called Anna and said, now I should turn this $2 million down, right? And she said, yes, turn it down. And he turned it down. That confidence and faith in us was pretty impressive. And we've never had that happen anywhere else in the world except Ukraine. People believed we were going to do what we said we were going to do, and it's something that we've just never experienced. I mean, the Ukrainian people, they're not just, they're known for fighting on the battlefield, and they're known for being innovative. But I will tell you, they should also be known for being part of an incredible culture that is willing to embrace and trust other people, because that's what they've done with us, and that's what we've learned from them.
Well, surely all that time that you've spent there on the front lines, building those relationships is a big part of it. You know, a lot of people in this room have experience in Ukraine. Very few have gotten to see the things you've seen. I mean, you send me text messages of the videos you're taking, and it makes you worry. I mean, you're right there where bombs are being, dropping, or where they're being shot off, rockets are being shot.
So are the Ukrainians.
Yeah, and so are Ukrainians. Yeah. What are you seeing on the front lines? You've just been there a couple of months ago, I think. What are you seeing that maybe not everybody here understands about how the war is going, or what life is like there on the front lines?
Well, there is some concern in all of the command centers where I was. There's concern about not having enough soldiers, but every commander responded with the same answer, maybe with some variation, which is, we're going to overcome this with technology. That's a big leap of faith, in my opinion, but they do have to overcome it. And so I'm confident they will find a way to do it. They may end up having to, did I go dead? No? Okay. I thought, usually I get shut off when I talk too much, so I'm used to it.
You didn't get the hook yet. Keep going.
No, so, they do face that challenge. I mean, there are challenges Ukraine is facing. I mean, you can't say after 4 years of the full-scale invasion that Russia's winning. There's no question that Ukraine has done something that nobody in the world really believed except themselves that they could do. So there are challenges for Ukraine, and there is fatigue. And I think I see it more in citizens than I do in the military. The military is quite committed. I mean, they are not giving up. And so this war can end different ways, but it's not going to end by Ukraine surrendering. And so I think that the other thing that I see is after, and I say again, after the full-scale invasion, because I'm thinking in terms of 4 years of like really all-out war, Ukraine's not going to stop defending their freedom. They're not going to stop defending their democracy. And neither would, I mean, think about if someone came into this country and you realize that you're going to lose everything that you have, everything that your family and generations have earned, put together, saved for, and the future of your children. Are you going to stand by and let that happen? The Ukrainians said no. And I would hope we would have the wherewithal in this country to do the same thing. But what I do know is the Ukrainians have proven to the world that they do have it, and they are doing it.
Maybe there's more fatigue. You wouldn't know it listening to Steny Hoyer, but maybe in this town than there is in Ukraine. And it's worrying, right? We're so close, but we're not quite there. You've been advocating for a long time for a different policy out of the U.S. and out of Europe. We were on stage in Paris where you were calling for, unfreezing the assets in Europe. We now have a war in Iran. When you look at the situation today, how does that change the calculus? How do you see kind of a way forward for U.S. policy, European policy to actually do what the Ukrainian people need to drive this war in the right direction?
Well, right now, the war in Iran has been the greatest gift you could have given Putin. But it won't last. I don't believe it will last. And I think there's different outcomes. I think that, number one, it has given Ukraine to take a position on the global stage and help other countries defend themselves. And I think that is going to give Ukraine future allies that they didn't have or wouldn't have had before. Someone has to wake up in this country and understand that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran to kill our soldiers, our military. I mean, that has to count for something at some point. I mean, how can you let that happen? And I'll tell you the other thing is Iran was incredibly important to Russia in the beginning of the full-scale invasion with the Shahed drones that they provided. I mean, they provided Russia an opportunity to have a war on civilians, and that's what part of this war is. And Russia has improved the Shahed drones well beyond what Iran ever produced, whether it's going to jet engines, whether it's figuring out how to put Starlink on the back of them, whether, whatever it is, they are providing weapons to fight the United States. It is beyond my comprehension, even going back to 2022, when the narrative was, we'll stand with you as long as you need us. That was bullshit, because the narrative should have been, we are going to help you defeat Russia. That's what the narrative should have been. And it still should be that. So we now have a Russia that is directly attacking through Iran the United States assets, their people, our goals, our policy, our beliefs, our principles, our values, and we are still not recognizing at certain levels in this country what that means to us. We are going to pay a heavy, heavy price for this.
What about the Europeans? We're in Sweden's house. What do you want to see them do differently?
So Raj, he always asks me these trick questions. Well, I think, look, there's a lot of things that happen that if you're not in the room and you're not in the negotiations and you're not part of what's happening, you don't know about, okay? So I say that as a caveat. But when you bring up the frozen assets, the first year or two, I would have been in a camp that said, maybe not mess with them. Maybe it has financial implications. Maybe it has whatever. But we're way past that point. I mean, you've got someone who is killing civilians every day, which means he's committing war crimes every day. And so, we're way beyond worrying about what happens. I would challenge Europe, however they need to work it out. I would say, quit worrying about what might happen if you use the frozen assets, because you're taking these assets from a murderer. You're taking these assets from someone who's committing genocide. You're taking these assets from someone who is trying to kill civilians every single day in Ukraine. I don't think you have to worry about defending yourself later. That same kind of person isn't going to show up next week and open a bank account. So you have to take the assets and use them for the benefit of Ukraine defending themselves against an aggressor that is not going to stop. This was said earlier by the general, until he is stopped.
Brad mentioned this in your long list of things you are known for: a sheriff, a businessman.
I think you made those up, but anyway.
A philanthropist. You are a farmer, not a gentleman farmer. You drive a tractor.
Yeah.
You're an actual farmer.
Yeah.
And you've gotten to know a lot of farmers in Ukraine.
Yeah.
What's the situation when it comes to farming in Ukraine? What's it like to be?
Well, there was a farmer killed 2 days ago in a combine 7 kilometers in Sumy, 7 kilometers from the border. 2 of our pieces of equipment were sitting on the farm. It was not our combine that he was in. But I've known a few other farmers that have been killed, all by drones. So they're clearly targeted. I mean, there's no accidents. There's no mistakes. I mean, these are people being targeted. These are farmers being targeted. Farming is really tough, depending on where you are, because of the threat, because of the every day that you go out to the field, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you're going to face. You don't know if you're going to come home at night. Obviously not to the extreme that people are fighting on the front line, but it's a threat that no farmer anywhere else in the world faces. On top of that, you have had 100,000 pieces of farm equipment destroyed. You've had tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of grain stolen. All of these things add up to undermining the farm economy, to making it very difficult for farmers to stay on the farm. And so, it is really, really difficult for farmers. But, and you have other things that are happening. There's a lot of farmers that have died fighting. There are farmers who are continuing to fight. And so those farms, some of them are sitting idle. Some of those are probably getting harvested by neighbors for the benefit of everybody. But farming is under siege in terms of those who are still trying to make it work. And if there's, when I talk to farmers, some farmers look at Ukraine as a competitor. And I just say to them, what if, because I know 2 farmers that have had to do this, what if you've got your farm, wherever you are, Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois, Ohio, and you're now at war, and you had to call in the coordinates of your own farm for your army to destroy it because you know that that's a command center for the enemy. That's the decision some farmers have made. And on top of that, who in the United States that farms you farm because you love it, okay? You can farm, you can be a big commercial farmer and still, be about the money, but you still love farming. There's something special about it. You're going to let them come take your land away from you? You're not going to let them come take your land away from you. So if you look at farming and agriculture in Ukraine, it is probably one of the greatest examples of why Ukraine is fighting. You don't give up your freedom. You don't give it up. And so farmers are still trying to make sure that they are part of what keeps Ukraine functioning and free.
That's probably a through line through your philanthropy around the world. You always work with farmers, Central America and Congo, all over the world. When this war began, the latest invasion began just 4 years ago, and that led to a spike in fertilizer prices and inputs, and you saw hunger all over the world. Talk a little bit about what the impact was on farmers everywhere, and now that you have a good percentage of the world's fertilizer that comes out of the Persian Gulf blocked, what should we be watching for?
Well, the good news is I put my anhydrous on in the fall, so I'm okay on fertilizer. This is not exactly what you're asking me, but it's a story that is very specific that is part of the answer. I was sitting in Rwanda, Ann, 2 years ago? Yeah, about 2 years ago. And we have a couple of big projects over there with very small size farmers. And I'm sitting in the room with about a dozen of them talking about what's going on and how things are going and how they see things. And one of the farmers said, we had our best year ever. Corn was 3 times higher than what it's ever been. And I said, wow, what happened? His answer was Ukraine. It blew me away, to be honest with you, to sit in Rwanda talking to a guy who farms a half an acre or something. But that's great that it's good for him. But what's that mean for everybody who has to buy food? Okay, so that is a very specific, direct response that I can give you that was actually, I don't want to say shocking, but pretty close to it. I did not expect this farmer in Rwanda to say that Ukraine created the environment for him to have the best year he's ever had on his farm. So, and World Food Program would have said in the very beginning in 2022 that a food basket in Eastern Africa was up by almost 50%. I mean, these are countries we've spent a lot of time in and we've worked in. And I've actually seen people die from hunger in Africa. And so, children actually. And so when you see that, and when you hold the hand of a mother who's watching their child die, and you can't communicate, but you don't need to communicate because you know her child is dying. And when you've been through that experience and you think that because Russia has decided, that Putin has decided that he's going to invade a sovereign country and he's going to create all of this pain and suffering and hunger across parts of the world that absolutely don't have the resources to respond to that. They do not have, like we have in the United States, they have no safety net. They have no thing to fall back on. So I can tell you, Putin has killed people in Africa. He has probably killed people in Yemen. He has killed people in different parts of the world. He just can't be quite tagged with it because it's so indirect. But he has done it. And he's done it because he has decided to invade a country with incredible aggression, breaking every rule there is about war, breaking every rule of law, breaking every rule that oversees how you treat prisoners of war, and stealing children, trying to get children, not trying, indoctrinating them so they will fight against their own country. I mean, these are incredible crimes, and they're done at scale. They're not done a little bit here and a little bit there. They're done at scale. And what are we doing? We're not stopping it. That's a crime in itself.
That's one of the best arguments I've ever heard for why this is not some local European issue, as some people in this town like to say, but this is both a moral outrage and a global problem.
Well, look, Europe can do more, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and tell them what they should do. That's their business. And they have the most risk in this, to be honest with you, in many ways, not in every way. But they have a lot of risk in this. And there are some countries that have absolutely figured that out, and they are absolutely doing things to be prepared for it. But yes, Europe can do more. But that's a cop-out in a way, because you have to say, where is the United States? Where are they in terms of being the country that always said, we are the leader in freedom, we are the leader in democracy, and what good is our word if when in 1994 we said we will help protect you, and we don't go all the way to help protect a country? Look, I get this close. In 2022, I think our total commitment, and this is our appropriations, we have only provided Ukraine like 50% of what's been appropriated. Okay, so it's not what people think. They look at the big number and they think, oh, this is what we've done. Well, we haven't done that. We've done about 50% of it. But in 2022, it was about 53 or 54 billion dollars. In 22 and 23, it was about $64 billion, something like that. In 24, it was about $68 billion. In 25, it was under $4 billion. The first quarter of the fiscal year, it's $220 million. We should be ashamed of that. I mean, that's disgusting, okay? That's beyond disgusting. I mean, I don't know the right word. But the reason it's disgusting is because as we look at those numbers, can we really think it's okay that so far in the first part of the first quarter of the fiscal year 2026, we've given $220 million of support? We've done more than that. That's how bad it is.
Your foundation.
Well, so the answer is, why is it disgusting? It's disgusting because as we look at those numbers, we know that Russia has embarked on not just invading the country, but they've embarked on a war on civilians. They're committing war crimes every single day. So how do we look at what we're doing at this level today and hold our heads up? We are supposed to be the leaders in the world. That is not how leaders act. That's not how you behave if you are going to be the country that says to the rest of the world, we believe in freedom, we believe in democracy, we believe in sovereignty. Well, where are we? We're not there.
What can the people of Ukraine expect from you going forward? Are you going to keep going to Ukraine? Is it going to remain this kind of focus that it's become over the last few years for you?
Well, I'm going to go to Ukraine as long as I can for as many trips as I think I need to make. I told Ann I was going to go 3 years this year, and she just laughed at me. She said, it'll be more than that. But I don't know what it'll be. It's going to be what it should be, what makes sense, and I don't know what that is. As far as the foundation, we have some very specific things that we'll focus on after the war. But until that time comes, we will absolutely stay at the level. Last year we spent $340 million. You know, we have a budget of $300 million this year, but that doesn't really mean anything. We have a lot of flexibility. I wouldn't be surprised if we go over that. It just depends on what needs to be done that we think we can do, that makes sense for us to do. For us, Ukraine is, I've never said it this way, but I'm thinking of it when you ask the question. Ukraine is actually, the funding for Ukraine is what is the opportunity. So we never looked at funding in any other country like what is the opportunity. We've gone out, we've looked at specific things, we know things we want to do, we identify partners we want to work with. Ukraine hasn't been that way. Ukraine is what is the opportunity? What is the opportunity to support the Ukrainian people? What is the opportunity to support the president and his team? What is the opportunity to support? We can't really support the military, but there are things we can do, whether it's medical training or certain other things. What is the opportunity to take a whole generation of people that are going to see thousands of people that need prosthetics? What can we do to help make that adjustment in Ukraine to have the best, the very best prosthetics and training and counseling and support for a whole generation that's going to have to adjust to a different way of looking at life. So we're not going to stop doing any of that. I mean, when the war is over, we will shift gears. We know how we want to shift gears, and it won't be reconstruction. We have no business spending our money on reconstruction because that's $1 billion times how many ever business. Our money will get lost in that bucket, and we shouldn't let our money get lost. We should make our money count. We should make it bring some kind of change or proof of concept or whatever it is. So we won't be there for reconstruction. I mean, that's not what we're going to do, but we have other ideas on what we can do.
Well, you have clearly made it count so far. It is a real honor to get to talk with you up here. And I know there's a number of your colleagues in the crowd, the people who make things tick at the Howard G. Buffett Foundation.
Those are the guys that show up at 9 and go home at 4. And I'll tell you, when couldn't have a better team doing what we're doing, all of them. And what I got them on the phone in April 2022, and I said, we're going to spend as much money as we can spend intelligently this year in Ukraine. And there was this long silence. It's like, well, what do you mean? One of them's working in Colombia, and somebody else working in Guatemala, and somebody's in Rwanda, and somebody's working in DRC. It's like, oh no, I know. That's your day job. Now you have another job. And long silence. And the first month or so, people were really kind of thinking, like, how are we going to do this? And then I think you could ask any single person on our staff, and they are extremely proud of the work that they've done in Ukraine. They're proud that they could step up and do it and get it done. And there's not a person on our staff that if I send an email or a text or call them and say, we've got to get this done, we have to do this now in Ukraine, that doesn't drop what they're doing or figuring out how one of the colleagues can help them get it done. I mean, they just do it. They really get it done. This award is not about me. This award is about the Ukrainian people who have stood and fought for a decade to protect their country, and the award is about the staff that's sitting in here that make it happen. I don't make it happen. They make it happen.
Well, if anybody was wondering why you and your team have got this award, you now know. Thank you so much, Howard G. Buffett. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
This generosity, you wrote a check for $1.5 billion. I can't even comprehend what that number means, But when I heard he'd been there 23 times.
25.
Sorry. You gotta correct the internet because that's where we're getting the information.
I only say it because I'm trying to keep up. Whoever it was,
Brad, Brad. So when I heard about that is when I said we have to honor this man because of the 35 plus years I've worked in Ukraine. I discovered that nothing, and I mean nothing means more than to have what I call non-hyphenated Americans, meaning not Ukrainian Americans, be by their side. And they did, communities, Omaha, Nebraska, and so many, Longview, Texas, the things that they did at they worked under Kuchma times, which were not easy political times. Anyway, so when I heard that, I said, this is an extraordinary man, but more than that, he is doing an extraordinary thing for people of Ukraine, because I am sure that at times they feel like they've been abandoned. So that's why it's not the $1.5 billion, though, hey, it's a historic number, and yes, but it's your personal dedication to be with the people of Ukraine. So, okay, we are, so I started to say American dinner, Swedish vodka, and Ukrainian toasting. Well, again, if we were doing this Ukrainian style, we'd be going for several more hours. But I was told, it's Washington, it's Wednesday night, we have to be done by 9:15.
You missed it.
Yes, there are certain things I flunked. Though you did say you wouldn't mind staying till midnight.
Oh, I'll stay till midnight.
No, so we're trying to be mindful there. So the final toast by tradition. Now, if you were in Ukraine, there would have been multiple toasts, like 10 or whatever. But the final toast is called na konya, which means on the horse. And what it means is basically one for the road. We couldn't do what we have done for all these years without the tremendous support of so many people over the decades. John and General Breedlove's on our leadership council, and he's like, I'm willing to do almost anything you ask me, right? Was that? No. And I don't want to, there's a lot of people I could call upon. And is Mark Levin here? Mark, he was? Okay. Mark Levin, he's the director of National Council of Soviet Jewry. We've worked together since the 90s. We've been working on Jewish-Ukrainian relations, which is not an easy thing. But he is one of 5 people that I consider truly friends in Washington, because, it's hard to have a friend in Washington. When the full-scale invasion began, I called quickly some of the people, and I called Mark, and he connected me with this foundation in New Jersey that collects medical equipment and sends it all over the world. But they decided that they were going to send everything to Ukraine. So 6 days after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we were able to send an airplane full of medical supplies. I had labeled it Ukraine airlift after the Berlin airlift. I tried to reach Bronson I had this vision like, in Dunkirk where you had all these ships going or whatever, and I thought, I was reaching out, who's got private planes? I should have called you, right? To deliver things.
I don't have that much influence in that area.
Anyway, so all that we've accomplished has been because of people who have given of themselves. And Red talks about giving your time, your treasure, or your talent. And you, of course, are doing all 3 in abundance. But everybody's giving. And so recently also our partners are throughout. We're working with the Latvian government. We're sending some things regarding the winter season. So as I thank everybody for all that has been done in the past. So I read this, right? I have never thought about not returning to Ukraine. I will come back for as long as my friends are fighting. So it's been said several ways. So tonight, for the road, or on the road, I ask you to stay the course with us, because it's still a tough road ahead. And we can only do things if we all do them together. So I raise the final toast, na konya, it means one for the road. Thank you all. Now there's one final tradition, is a song. Somebody said it's for birthdays. Well, it really is all-purpose, birthdays, any kind of celebration. And there's only 2 words to it, Nohealita, which means many, many years.
And
Hit
it's,
it.
And it's Nadia's birthday in 3 days.
So
So-
hit it now.